Thank everyone for coming early. Tonight we have with us Dara MacCaba from WhatIf. They're a branding, innovation, and marketing company. I'm going to go no further than that to introduce the company because I'm still trying to figure out exactly what they do, but I'm sure Dara can very, very clearly explain what they do at WhatIf. So everyone please give a warm round of applause for Dara MacCaba from WhatIf.
Thanks, Joe. Welcome, everyone. When Joe first asked me about what we might be able to talk about regarding innovation, I said, well, we can talk a little bit about what it means to different people, but it's a bit of a big topic. When people talk about innovation, it's a bit like talking about love or freedom or one of these sort of very vague concepts. So I'm not sure I can actually deliver on explaining more clearly about what we do in 15 minutes. And then when Joe actually said to me with the email, not only are you going to talk about innovation, but the future innovation China, I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. So we're not going to be able to sort of bite off all of that this evening, of course. We're probably going to spend about 15 minutes just talking about some different examples about maybe innovation from multinational companies' perspectives in China and how that's similar and different to Chinese companies doing innovation in China. And does innovation mean something a little bit different from the way it's practiced in terms of how they qualify success from a multinational perspective compared to a Chinese organization or company perspective? So I think one of the interesting things from our perspective at WhatIf is that in Western countries, innovation is often about sort of improving your product, making it more expensive, selling to the top end of your market, going after your most desirable consumers, the ones who seem to have the biggest wallets. But one of the quite interesting things in China is that what we might consider sort of ripping off, which is a bit of a prejudice or bias, can actually be an interesting simplifying. And there's some examples of that which I'll get into in a moment, but I just thought I'd share a story from a few decades ago, which might be actually still very relevant today, but a lot of companies forget this very simple rule. So this very short story was about how after Glasnost and the Cold War, some Russians came to the States and they wanted to sort of walk around the NASA space facilities, and the Americans were very proud. No offense to any Americans out there, I lived there for a long time, but the Americans were very proud about their NASA sort of facilities, and look, we've got this shiny object and this shiny object, and this costs a lot of money and so on. And at the end of the trip, one of their proudest things was a pen that they developed with millions and millions of dollars, because they said they basically had a huge problem to tackle, which was that in space, when you try to write with a pen, the ink won't flow downward. So they had all of these injection systems and all the rest of it to get the ink down in a very simple way, a technological way. And the Russians were listening, saying, gosh, that's amazing, you spend all this money on it, it seems very, very high tech and so on, it looks like a beautiful piece of machinery. And they said, it's interesting, we had that same problem too when we were up in space. And the Americans said, great, and what was your response to this high-tech issue? They said, well, we used a pencil. And I think that this is sort of one of the key things that we often forget in innovation, is that instead of trying to be super fancy and spending huge amounts of money and speaking to the top end of your consumer, there actually can be a huge opportunity for the bottom base of your pyramid, simplifying your product and so on. I think just to bring this to life with some everyday products, again, innovation in China today can be across all sorts of industries, technology, automobiles, consumer products, pharmaceuticals, etc. As I said earlier, we can't go through all of those, but we can go through a couple of examples of everyday products. Here we have two products that, at least to my eye and possibly to yours, look incredibly similar. This one, actually let me double check. Yeah, this one is actually the multinational product. It's from Lipton, and it's a milk tea beverage. This one is the local Chinese competitor. What's interesting about this is that actually Lipton is known for its tea bags, right? I mean, that's how they're known for tea. And when they started getting into the milk tea beverage, they decided to use a powder format. And what the Chinese group did actually is that they basically mimicked the same design for a lot less money, simplified some of the key ingredients which consumers didn't want anyway, and then actually used the traditional tea bag rather than trying to get fancy into powder and so on. So it's actually quite a nice example, I think, of, again, not trying to sort of updo to the top end of your consumers, but simplifying can be very, very successful. I think one of the other big issues about multinationals doing innovation in China is that they assume that the meanings that these brands had back home will automatically transfer to China. And one of the big issues here, for instance, let me just dig out my box. Snickers, pretty much anywhere else in the world, is all around sort of energy, it's quite masculine, etc. But none of these associations automatically carry over in China. And so one of the big issues is trying to figure out from a brand innovation point of view, not just a product innovation point of view, but a brand innovation point of view, how to actually get Chinese consumers to interpret a global positioning. This is something that, for instance, one more example, it was quite interesting to me. In the States and in Europe, there was a campaign by Unilever for real beauty. And it succeeded really, really well because people were tired of sort of, seeing really skinny supermodels and sort of, photoshopped pictures and all the rest of it. So when they came out with this campaign of real beauty, of full-figured women in their underwear, people in the US and in Europe said, yes, thank you, this is really what we've been waiting for, and it played very well. But again, Unilever assumed that because it was going to work so well in other markets, it would work well in China. But China was at a very different point in its interpretation of what basically they were looking for in beauty. And so it's still very much at an aspirational stage. And so what's interesting again is not just thinking of product innovation in China, but also brand innovation in China, whether it's a chocolate bar, whether it's a positioning around shampoo and soap, that you have to really understand where the local market is with how they interpret things like beauty and freedom and safety to basically in order to transfer your brand meanings from one country to another.